Now, when did he leave to go to Vietnam and take over the battalion?
He probably left. Let's see, I left in May of '69, so it was probably end of '68 or maybe early '69.
And he goes over, and he's over there for a few months, and then he ends up he wants to surround himself with good people again. And so he reaches out to you?
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Well, I was still at Lewis as an AIT company commander. And another thing I should tell you, at that time, I'm not real happy with the Army because they never gave me any assignment or anything I ever asked for.
Yeah, you're like 0 for 4 at this point.
Well, wait, are you ready for this? I did what I didn't tell you was in graduate school I majored in Japanese history and Chinese history and political science and Japanese language in my master's of social studies. Okay, and I happen to be Japanese American. I happen to have had a tour in Korea, right? Where, by the way, I didn't tell you, I got some awards from the Korean Army. And so now the Army comes out with the Foreign Area Specialty Training Program, or FAST, okay? And the concept was a great concept. You know, in Vietnam, we got caught with our pants down because we didn't have any Army experts in Vietnam. Nobody knew the culture, nobody knew the language, the politics. Sound familiar? And so basically, the Army said, okay, we're going to develop geographic experts for the whole world, okay? And we're going to call it the FAST program. So I saw that, and it was in the Army Times, and they said, if you have an interest, call this number, and so I called, and I said, hey, look, pull up my record, you'll see, I've got my master's degree in Far Eastern Affairs. Ethnically, I'm Japanese. I've got a tour in Korea where I got some awards from the Korean Army, okay? And I'm regular Army, right? What are my chances of getting in this program?
They should be 100%, right?
Are you ready for this? The first words out of the guy's mouth, you haven't been to Vietnam. And I said, well, that's right, but if you'll go back in my record, you'll see I volunteered for Vietnam. And the Army sent me to Korea, okay? He said, but that doesn't count. Okay. The second thing he said was, you haven't been to career course, advanced course for officers. Well, he got me there. I hadn't, I was just a young captain. I hadn't been there. So in essence, he's telling me, come back in a couple of years and maybe we'll think about it. He didn't give me any encouragement. He didn't say, hey, you're a natural for this program. I'll keep on monitoring your career, blah. He didn't do any of that stuff. And about that time, I got the letter from Hackworth saying, hey, Mook, we got a war going on. If you want a company, it's yours. And I hit the lotto, and frankly, I was thinking of, resigning my regular Army commission, but I hadn't been to Vietnam yet. And I was a bachelor. I had a lot of my friends who were married, who were going back for their second and third tours, and I felt an obligation. And not only that, but I figured, well, maybe if I go, I'll change my mind, and serving under Hackworth would be the best opportunity I could have. So I jumped at it, and I went. But things did not change.
How did you get orders? I mean, I know Hackworth had some relationships with people, but just to get a guy deployed to be in his battalion, how did he pull that off? What did it look like?
Well, I mean, I called my infantry officer assignment guy, whom I never spoken to in the 5 years I was on active duty, right? Because I always felt that I shouldn't be managing my own career, If I did my job, that the Army would, I'd be treated okay, Well, none of that ever happened, right? So I called this guy at the Pentagon, and I say, hey, I'm volunteering for Vietnam again. And he basically said, well, okay, give me your phone number in case we lose connection here. And then he said, and I said, but I have a stipulation. I need to go to the 9th Division. And he said, okay, I can make that happen. When do you want to go? I said, as soon as possible. And this was February, and he said, well, I can get you there in August. And I said, nope, that's not soon enough. He said, how about April? I said, sold. So I got orders to, now everybody told me in the world at that time, here I am, infantry, regular army captain going to Vietnam. When I hit the repo depot, they could assign me anywhere. And orders meant nothing, because infantry captains were a dime a dozen. So when I get to Vietnam, everything was greased. 9th Division. I went from Saigon right to the 9th Division at Dong Tam. I land there. I got my orders to his battalion. It's all greased.
Weren't you doing some kind of like Vietnam indoctrination for a week long, and Hack pulled you out 2 days into it or something?
Yeah, I was so upset. They had a 5-day in-country training program for newbies. Okay, especially in the Delta, I'd say 85% of our casualties were from booby traps, and so and there was a special terrain, with rice paddies and canals, and just the whole thing was totally different. And so they had this 5-day training course to acclimate you and to understand the booby traps and the terrain and all this stuff. And I'm in it for 2 days, and I'm pulled out of the course, and I'm put on a helicopter, and they take me down to the battalion fire support base, and I'm madder than a wet hen, and I go to Hack and I say, "Sir, how can you do this to me? I mean, I'm trying to learn how to stay alive, so I can." And he said, "Mook, you don't need that stuff. I know you." Yes, sir. Yes, sir.